think it hit me in the nuts. Oh. Oh. Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got the Axis 1310 with me, and I'm going to let you know what I think about this wing compared to the Axis 1150. So for starters, the 1310 is quite a bit more difficult to learn than the 1150. For reference, I learned how to dock start the 1150 consistently in 2 days, where I could have like a 8 out of 10 success rate. This wing has been a lot more of a challenge. I can dock start this thing probably 50% of the time. We're gonna do a little test here in a minute, but there was another video of someone talking about how you need to let this wing stabilize for a second before you start pumping. And that is extremely true, because if you try to start pumping immediately after launching this, things can get a bit tricky and it's hard to recover and it'll just like buck you off like a bull. Whereas the 1150, you can just go. It's a lot more forgiving of a wing. Yes, it's a little bit less lift. Yes, it's a little bit less efficient, but of course it still has extremely good glide. Of course, I only weigh 140 pounds. I forget what that is in kilograms. 65 kilograms. I don't know. Kilometer people. But the 1310 is still a ton of fun, but I would say unless you're just a bigger person that needs a 1310, my all-around go-to wing would still be the 1150. This wing is just so much harder to control if you're talking about turning, and maybe it's because I don't weigh a ton, but it's also, I mean, think about how much more wing you got to turn lengthwise. The 1150 is just so much more nimble, and I just think that the 1150 is going to be more forgiving if you're trying to learn how to dock start. Whereas the 1310, I could see this being a very frustrating wing to try to learn everything about dock starting with. Now, that being said, this thing is a little bit more pitch sensitive, and with that comes stalling quite a bit, even off the dock. But I was still able to launch this wing on my first try somehow. I think it was more luck. And then I had a lot of trouble repeating that success. Now, yes, there's some fatigue that goes into that, but a lot of it is just how technically challenging this wing is to pump. And I've heard that from the same guy I watched the video about how this wing needs to stabilize for a second when you first launch it, is talked about how the advanced fuse makes this wing a lot more forgiving, which makes sense because obviously the longer how do I explain it? You know, if you have a rod, right? If a little pitch change here is huge out there, well, the same thing would apply because this is your fulcrum, right? And so if you move your fulcrum up more towards the wing, you can give it bigger inputs and it has a smaller output because you have changed that length. So I would like to try that with a red fuselage, but I also need to get a black fuselage for when I try the, well, hopefully at some point I get the 1401. But I see a lot of people selling 910Bs for the black fuselage. I really want to get a 910, mostly for behind the wake boat, but also for just pumping off the dock, see if I can even launch it. So that'll be a fun future video for the summer. But for now, I really want to master the 1310 so that I can go pump around the lake. My goal is to pump across the channel and back, which I think is about a quarter mile of total pumping. And I think I could do it in something like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. So, so yeah. But in today's video, I'm going to see how many times I can successfully launch this wing out of 5 attempts. Again, fatigue is going to play a role, but I know with the 1150 I could get at least 4 out of 5, if not 5 out of 5. So I would like to see if I can get somewhat of the same result out of this one. I'm expecting 2 out of 5, and that's just because this wing is just that much more difficult than the 1150. But with that said, let's give it a shot. Dang it.
That last one wasn't really so much the wing as it was
just jumping on the front of the board, making it go under, so just a bad launch. One thing I think I've noticed too, and this is when launching anytime off of a dock, is you really gotta have your body going in that forward motion too. Like, I can't just ride the board down and then jump on it as it's going. I'll basically stall it, so I need to work on having more speed when I jump off the dock onto the board. Let's practice that right now, even though I have some bass boat waves coming. They're not very big though. Let's see if we can repeat it 2 times in a row using that exact same thought. Keep in mind, I still have a lot of fatigue from today's practice, but with that new mindset, I think we have a better chance. I almost hit the rocks, but 3 out of 3. So you can see with the 1310, consistent launches are possible, but I really have to focus on launching myself off the dock when I jump on the board. Whereas with the 1150, I can kind of just jump on the board. I don't have to do it at such a parallel angle to the dock. I can really focus my force on just jumping on as light as possible and pumping away. And again, with the 1150, you can dig so deep and recover, whereas with the 1310, it is so pinch sensitive that it's very easy to stall, even when you're pumping. Now, the 1150 is, I think, a better all-around wing, just because, of course, it's a lot more playful, shorter wingspan, and it's a lot more forgiving if you're learning, or even if you're just trying to go catch waves, which again, I would not try to catch waves with this wing. I'm sure I would get ripped off of the board, just being that the wing would get caught in the wave, and then I wouldn't be able to yaw it back and forth. But if you're coming from the 1150, this is still a good wing because of how efficiently it pumps whenever you learn how to pump this wing efficiently. But I think that is going to wrap up my review of the 1310, or at least my initial impressions. I think I'll have more to say on it as we get deeper into the summer. But for now, I think this is a great wing. I just think my 1150 is going to stay my main wing for just off the dock, trying to pump around, be playful, catch boat wakes, stuff like that. And this is going to be more of my distance wing, and when I want something really efficient on a nice calm day like this. But with all that said, that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe if you have not already, and stay tuned for the next one because I'm going to be learning how to frog start or knee start with this wing, just to see if I can get a few more consistent launches and so I can launch from anywhere on the lake with this wing.